Welcome to A Cofi with the FinTech Pod. We'll explore the latest trends, innovations, and ideas shaping the financial industry. Join host Alex Irigoyen as he interviews leading experts in the field. Learn from top CFO, tech leaders, investors, and many more. Join us and get inspired. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of A Cofi with. Today with us we have Bob Morgan. Bob, thank you very much for joining us today in the pod.
Yes, it's great to be here, Alex.
Awesome. So Bob, you have a great experience as a CFO, as an entrepreneur. Studied accounting and finance, right? MBA, and then a very successful career as CFO and also as a founder. I don't know if you could give us some context, a background of how did you start and where are you now?
Sure. Well, I had my first CFO role when I was 28. That was with a multi-unit wholesale retail distribution company. From there, I went into e-commerce, travel, hospitality. Those two were both publicly held companies. After that, I say I kind of got a little entrepreneurial. I went with a smaller company in the B2C financial services space. We grew it about 10x in 3 years. After that, I really got entrepreneurial. That's where I co-founded a digital media company that you had mentioned. Me and my partner, we ran and grew it for about 12 years. Ended up selling it, and most recently, I've been working in the fintech, SaaS, payroll software, HCM, insurance space. So, several industries, primarily because of successful exit transactions that come with non-compete. So I've enjoyed the variety.
Awesome. That's a super exciting career, Bob. So one of the questions that comes to my mind is, we know that the role of the CFO is very number driven, right? But you've been a founder of a marketing company, so digital creativity, right? So I want to ask you, how do you be able to have that role of a CFO, right? That is more, let's say, more boxed or more number driven, as well as being creative within the same role and grow a company using that creativity?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the CFO role it's evolving. It's been evolving. I think it's evolving even more quickly recently, and you really need to be successful. I feel you do need to have strength in both areas. Obviously, the numbers, that's what the traditional role has been. But on the creativity side, I think of being that strategic partner to the CEO, to your peers, to the ownership group, because as the business and the industries and technology changed rapidly, you have to be creative to handle both the external challenges and the internal challenges. So I think challenging your comfort zone is important for a CFO to be able to continue to grow both, technically on the numbers, but also with the creativity. So yeah, that's I think is you always need to be learning, reading, to really diversify your skills.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say, Bob, that, for example, being creative in that decision making might be the opposite or a bit contraproducent for risk management, in the sense that, okay, I'm going to be more creative, I'm going to maybe take some more risks, and that's maybe the opposite of risk management. How do you see that balance in there?
Yeah, no, I think they're complementary. I think you need to take calculated risk. Risk and reward. It's a fundamental in business. It's an important concept that you really need to nurture. I think the perception of the CFO is changing and needs to change when it comes to, like you said, taking some risks, not just saying no to everything. That's always the easy. That's the easy answer. But the way I balance those two, I think the CFO needs to accept and adopt a testing mentality, where no, you don't you don't go out there and take huge unknown risks. So there's ways to break things down, more of in a laboratory experimental testing, a testing discipline, I think is the key to evaluate whether it's new products or new markets, new lead generation, whatever whatever that risk may be. And sometimes those are big risks that legacy thinking is very hesitant to challenge. But I think if you can come at it from a testing point of view, limiting your risk with good data to prove the results is really the key.
Mm-hmm. So what will be an example, let's say, of that a potential test that you will run as a CFO?
Oh wow! I guess the one that comes to my mind very quickly is the testing mentality, the testing discipline when it comes to growing inorganically. I'm sorry, growing organically through lead generation.
Yeah.
Whether that is a different lead source for your B2B sales force or a new lead source for your B2C, online conversions. Testing is integral to test these lead sources. So I don't know if that's too easy of an answer for you, Alex, but I think you can test things. You can test products and markets if you just here again apply your creativity.
Yeah. I see, for example, a very good way for testing, let's say, paid search, right, or paid advertising. That nowadays the metrics are very easy to track, and you can rely on the return on your investment, and then therefore take the decision to invest more in there, right? I guess maybe in terms of, let's say, content production, right, that the results are not you don't see them as fast as in the other one, right? That's maybe where we can have higher risks in investing. I know what you think, Bob.
Yeah, well, you're talking about content specifically?
Yeah, for example, in the case of lead generation, so...
Yeah. Well, that's where you just do your A/B testing. You need to be methodical with it. You need to be disciplined with it. You test the creative. You test the whole path. You measure all of the conversion points. That's all part of it. That's all part of it. You should be able to test and look at the results from the entire funnel, evaluating things in a controlled manner, so that the content example that we're talking about, the content, how that content performs compared to the alternative content.
Yeah. No, actually, that's true. That's true. Because nowadays, with the social platforms, the content that you are uploading, you can have very nice way of tracking how each piece is performing. So it's actually true too that even in content production, right, we can gather good data to evaluate if it's making sense or not. That's
right. The data that we have at our fingertips nowadays is just amazing. I think that's part of why the CF role is changing and needs to continue to change. Being that more comprehensive strategic partner, to the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what would you say are some of the obstacles as a CFO for being more creative? So let's say it's maybe the board, you are afraid of trying to bring value to the table in other ways that are not expected as the CFO, or what do you think are these obstacles?
Yeah, no, that certainly can be an obstacle. The old mentality of stay in your lane, if that's kind of what I'm hearing you saying, Alex.
Yeah,
That's certainly something you have to manage. Um, you know, Staying in your lane is, obviously we know what our lane is on the traditional CFO path, financial reporting, but yeah, to add more value, to the company, you just need to have that leadership and the buy-in from your executive team.
yeah,
That, hey, no, Bob's not going to go out and I'm not going to be the biz dev and the sales guy, but I can partner with the chief marketing officer to help them have a better result when it comes to bringing some financial discipline to the testing, the metrics, the FP&A, applied reporting. So I think once you get that buy-in, that hey, this isn't a threat, this is a compliment, this is decision support. I am a resource to help
yeah,
the other
yeah,
parts of the business. So and that's how I've worked on that in the past, and it boils down to relationship building, and just being on top of your game.
yeah. What's the part role that you like the most about being a CFO? Is it being that business partner, or the classic reporting?
Well, I do like I like the strategic side. I like the action. Um, you know, I just love seeing the results. I really enjoy developing my team, the people that report to me, and my peers, working with the peers across the company. So yeah, I like the strategic initiatives. Much more than the routine. Um, but yeah, the growing the company and seeing the outcome and the positive results from working together is always a little bit more interesting than closing the month by the 5th or the 10th of the month. Has to happen. It's critical, but I do enjoy the non-routine.
Did it change a lot the role of the CFO in the last years? You would say?
Oh yeah, I think it has changed, and I think there's still more changes to come. We talked about data. I think that is, we all know with COVID, how things have accelerated when it comes to, AI, remote working. I think all of these, especially the data that we have, and then the wonderful software that's out there, just like your software, the software that's out there and available to actually, manage this large amount of data that we've never had, 10 years ago, So yeah, I think it's changing because of those reasons. The CFO has to be more well-rounded, in my opinion, more than just the financial reporting. I
Yeah.
think the companies need it and they expect it, and it helps just bring a better valuation to the shareholders.
And what's your forecast for the next couple of years? You mentioned AI. Do you think it's going to have a large impact in the office of the CFO?
I think it's certainly another development to manage, to keep an eye on. I've never been one to and I love technology, but I've never been one to embrace technology just for the sake of technology. Being on that bleeding edge, I think is often very costly. But yeah, it's already starting. I think there's a great opportunity when it comes to efficiencies, productivity with AI, but it'll certainly come with its risk and downside. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. The AI, and I think obviously we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
there's
How do you stay up to date, Bob, in terms of like, okay, what's the latest trends in terms of technology? I imagine that it's not only the technology for the finance team that you have to follow. You have to follow all the technology across the board. How do you stay up to date with the latest technology? Is it news, business school? How
Yeah,
you do?
yeah. Well, I do a few things. I try to read. You know, I subscribe to some data feeds. I try to stay up to speed at a high level. You know, from certain data sources. You know, you have to watch out for information overload, but you have to be somewhat selective on quality. You know, data that you follow and read. You know, some webinars, more than just your typical CPE that we as CPAs need. You know, I think that's one of the traps that CFOs and accountants can fall into. Because they have to have their CPE, you know, they sometimes that sometimes puts blinders on other areas that they should be spending some time in. But another key thing that I do is I always stay very close with my technology peers, CTO, CIO. You know, I can quickly get up the learning curve by having lunch and finding out, you know, what do they see around the corner? What are they working on? You know, how is the tech stack changing? You know, what is that roadmap looking like? So that's always a good way to stay in touch.
Do you normally try to have a data culture in your organizations, or how do you what's the sort of decision making culture that you wanna have in the organizations that you've been working?
Could you repeat that, Alex? Are you saying the data tool?
Yeah, no, the data culture that
Oh, the
in the
culture.
organizations. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
Is,
no
is
problem.
is it something that you try to embrace, or how it's been in your past experience in the finance team?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I like to bring that culture of collaboration, and like I said, collaboration between departments, not just within silos. You know, to set an example of, you know, yes, I am interested in IT, operations, marketing, HR. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And you lead by example, and you know, we talk about it. It's, you know, it's something that you talk about to grow and to nourish that desired culture of collaboration. So yeah, if now it depends on the company. You know, some companies are already there. Some companies aren't.
yeah,
Some companies that aren't, they want to. You know, the real challenge is when some companies aren't there and they don't want to.
yeah,
So that's always that can be a challenge.
yeah. So my question will be, Bob, like, how do you balance trying to be efficient, right, and in the other side, trying to be more innovative, right? Because in many cases, of course, to enter in new initiatives, right, to be more innovative, probably will have to take more investment risks, or be more, yeah, in that sense, the opposite behavior of being more efficient with the capital. So how do you find that balance between the two of them? Because probably you're going to have the board, right, trying to ask you for both. So how do you find that balance?
And Alex, just to confirm, the balance between efficiency and what?
And driving innovation, so being more proactive in initiatives that you have to invest capital, right,
Oh, sure, sure.
versus
Yeah,
being
no, that's
efficient and cost effective.
understood, understood. No, that's to me, it's all about the business case, the business rationalization, you know, the capital budgeting discipline that you have, showing the ROI, you
Yeah,
know, showing the ROI, you know, is it, and having, you know, having those, the kind of the guardrails, the agreement on, you know, how you're going to evaluate the ROIs. Are you looking for a 6 month? You know, is it a 6 month, you know, break even, or is it a longer term infrastructure initiative that you may look more like 2 or 3 years of a break even. So yeah, that's here again. It's all about the data and the business case that you can present. Efficiency. Obviously, efficiencies is CFOs are usually very good at looking at the efficiencies. At cutting costs. We love cutting costs, and I'm guilty. I love to cut costs wherever I can. But yeah, sometimes you have to invest, and it really depends on the trajectory of the company, where they're going too. Because you can't, if a company has strong growth goals, you got to be careful of limiting that.
Yeah. So would you say, Bob, that for every initiative in the office of the CFO, you look to the ROI?
Yeah, in some form or fashion. Obviously, for the lower cost initiatives, you may not spend as much time with the business case, but certainly for the larger capex, projects, you have to prove the ROI, get buy-in all along the way on the agreed benefits and how you value those benefits, the cost, over time. So yeah, for sure.
How about when it's about buying software? Is it the same process as with the capex?
It's similar. Like, it depends on the software. Exactly what kind of software we're talking here. It could be different for, networking infrastructure, versus, an FP&A software. So yeah, but yeah, it would, everything, you should be able at our level, everything boils down to the business case and measurements and just showing the ROI in one form or fashion.
That's awesome. Great. So just to finish, I would like to ask you, Bob, what would you say in these days the qualities or the things that a new CFO should be considering to learn for the coming years? What are those skills that you're looking for on a CFO?
Sure. And specifically for a new CFO?
Yeah, so let's say someone that is moving from VP of finance or finance director is going to take that new role of CFO. What are those changes that you have to see, or how that role differentiates?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I spend a lot of time with my direct reports. My last 3 controllers actually all went on to take CFO roles. So we talk a lot about developing skills, and some of the things we talk about. I've already mentioned a little bit on staying up to speed on on technology, best practices. Find what you like to read. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a morning newsletter or something more more extensive, like the Harvard Business Review. But you got to read. You got to stay up to speed. You can't just get blinded by looking only internally on what's going on. So, but yeah, the reading, webinars. There's lots of great content out there, very inexpensive webinars. But I think the one thing that probably doesn't get talked about enough is really, challenging your comfort zone. Challenging your comfort zone. I think the perception of the CFO, is changing and needs to change. But that involves challenging your comfort zone, working kind of like what we've already talked about, Alex, working with the other business units, and I mean really working closely with them, don't be afraid to go understand, your tech stack. I just use that as an example because sometimes I ask CFOs, what does their tech stack look like? And they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't do that. But yeah, that breaking that mold of recording transactions to other things that are much more strategic and requires different skills and different knowledge. especially it depends on the business. You know, some businesses, their marketing is one of their largest line items. You know, well, guess what? You know, you need to learn. You need to get a little bit deeper into the marketing of what's going on. So I think that's the key thing I would say is challenge yourself and really just get outside of your comfort zone and learn new things.
That's awesome. So for our young people listening that they want to start a career in finance, will it be the same advice or just some different advice from those new CFOs to those new finance people?
Yeah, I would say, you know, for people considering finance accounting as a career, I think it's a great career choice. And, you know, somebody recently told me one of the reasons they got into accounting was because every business needs accounting, which I never really thought of like that. But yeah, every business needs accounting, you know. Now, to what degree, that varies. But yeah, I think it's a great career path for anyone considering a business career. I chose accounting because as I was learning, you know, about the different careers, that accounting was perceived, well, probably it was real, that accounting was the toughest business major. I was like, okay, well, I want to do what's the toughest thing, not the easiest thing, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah, and I think back to the perception, I think we need to get the word out that this isn't, there are other alternatives than traditional accounting, public accounting, you know, going through the audit phase, going into industry and just being pigeonholed. I think there is a much more broader, and people, especially younger, you know, business students need to understand that there is a much more broader career path out there available to you than just what, you know, your parents probably told you was, oh, that's just a boring accountant, you know?
Yeah.
So I think accounting and broadly defining accounting and finance is much more exciting than it was, you know, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it can be exciting, accounting and finance for sure. I agree with that. Awesome, Bob. It's been a pleasure having you today in the pod. I don't want to take more of your time, so thank you very much for joining us. I'm looking forward to talking again soon with you.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.